Okay, well, I think we can go ahead and get started with interpretation. Um, yeah, Alejandro, I'll let you take it away.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and provide the instructions in Spanish first, and then I'll come back and repeat them in English. Hola a todos, gracias por tenerme aquí con ustedes. Creo que ya todos estamos familiarizados con la interpretación en esta junta, así que como recordatorio para que cada quien hable en el idioma de su corazón, van a ver el icono terráqueo en la parte inferior a mano derecha en su pantalla o bajo el menú con los tres puntitos que dice más. Después de que repita esto en inglés, asegúrense de seleccionar el español. Después voy a probar mi audio y me avisan si me escuchan. All right. Thank you all for having me. My name is Alejandro. I think we're all pretty familiar with the interpretation at this point, so I'll give you a brief reminder that globe icon is going to be at the bottom right-hand side of your screen or under the three-dot menu that says more. If you're not fluently bilingual in English and Spanish, make sure you also select your language, even if that is English. And with that, con eso ya vamos a aprender la interpretación. And with that, we can go ahead and just turn on the interpretation and jump right into it.
Okay.
Sí, te escuchamos, Alejandro.
Okay. All right. Well, we can go ahead and get started. Hi, everybody. If you joined a little late, feel free to, yeah, jump in the chat and let us know if you are hoping that summer lasts a little bit longer or if you are ready for fall. And yeah, thank you everyone for your flexibility. I know I had to kind of at the last minute change the timing of this meeting. So deepest apologies, but I'm really grateful that everyone could kind of make it work for today. And we are recording this, so we'll have that for anyone who isn't able to make it. So yeah, today's meeting is going to be some reminders. We're going to spend some time going over the proof of purchase guide, just so everyone feels really comfortable with it. This will be really helpful for supporting awardees, submitting the required documentation to prove they spent their funds appropriately, but this will also be really relevant for the tax credit application, kind of the same principles. And it's also the same principles that go into all of the invoices that your organization send us to be paid for your work here. So yeah, we'll take some time to go over that. We also have some tax credit updates. And then if it's still all right with Lucy and Lauren, we'll take a minute to have them go over a guide that they created as part of work with another group, but it's super relevant to our work here. It's an incredible guide in English and Spanish, and it's located in your contractor resources folder. So that's the game plan for today, but of course, plenty of time for questions and discussions and report outs and all that kind of thing that goes into check-ins. So we'll start with a couple of nuts and bolts housekeeping things. Thanks to everybody for submitting your quarterly reports. Those are always great to review and take a look at and can initiate a lot of great conversations. I know that, I think the tool may have been really intuitive to use in the early days where you were doing initial outreach, but now that we're kind of in a different phase of this work and you might be going back to the same business to tell them about a tax credit, you may be wanting to use the tool differently. I want to just say we can structure that spreadsheet in whatever way that it makes the most sense for you and your subcontractors and your team to use. We hope it's a tool that you're kind of using and updating continuously, not something you have to, that feels like a chore you have to go back to and, backtrack and count like, okay, well, how many hours, how many visits did I spend with that business? So we would like to make this tool something that is very user-friendly and that you can update as you go. The biggest thing that we care about is that we at CDA can get a comprehensive sense of all the work that you've been doing. Because as it is with everything in these grant worlds and in public health, you kind of have to prove what you've been doing. So we want to be building a case for all the important work that you've done, all of the hours that you've spent with businesses. We want to basically capture what you're already doing. So if you feel that the tool isn't fully capturing everything you're doing, let's talk about that and talk about ways to tweak your spreadsheet so that it is capturing all of your work. So any questions or comments about that? I know I've had a lot of conversations with folks individually about how to make changes to their reporting tool. Okay. Well, feel free to reach out to me if you, want to talk about yours specifically. Moving on. So, with the exception of, this change of date, I feel like our last Wednesday of the month meeting time has been really great, but we get into kind of pickle when we reach the holiday season, and our state holidays are in that last week of November and December. So just wanted to let you know I will keep the September and October meetings for the last Wednesday of the month, but I'm going to shift the November and December meetings up a week to kind of avoid those Thanksgiving, Christmas holidays. So keep an eye out for that. And again, we will record things if you can't make it to those different dates. Another reminder to send invoices. Yep, just gonna keep that one on there. Some of you guys are doing a great job. But yeah, keep them coming. We wanna make sure you get paid. Contract extension updates. Really good news. We had to kind of submit a special request to extend your contracts. The state procurement process can be, sometimes just a little particular to work with, but instead of having to open up, a new request for proposals and have all of your organizations resubmit a proposal, we requested that we could just extend the contract date and the contract amounts for the existing organizations doing this work. That was approved. So that's great news. So on that note, we get to kind of stay the course here. We will be working on making those extensions, but please let me know if there are conversations you want to have about the way this work will look going into the next 2 years. Please let me know if you are feeling that your organization is no longer interested in doing the work for the next 2 years. And we can kind of have a brainstorming session about what's the best way to accomplish this work, and what changes do we need to make to your contract as is. So now's the time for that if you want to initiate those discussions. And yeah, we're really excited about continuing this work. We think it will continue to be very fruitful. Yeah, as we lean into more of the tax credit and consortium side of this work, which is a lot less cut and dry than the grant. So Lauren, go ahead.
Thank you for working on those contract extensions, Mickey. Do you know, like, what date they will be extended to?
We're gonna try, I mean, I see no reason why we wouldn't be able to extend them through the very last day when we can spend these ARPA dollars, which is December 31st, 2026. So 2 more years for the majority of us here. That help? Cool. Marion, did you have a question?
That was my same question.
Yeah.
And are they funded? Are these funded extensions or just extensions for the contract language?
They're funded extensions, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the other piece to, you know, sort out is how much will be available. We're actually really excited to say that they're going to be about the same amount. So the exact amount is still being tweaked, but yeah, the amount per region per year should be the same as it was for this contract period. So yeah, things to think about and talk about amongst your contracting team. Brandy.
Yeah, that's great news. I wanted to know if there's anything in the process for the nonprofits that are taking on these contracts and having subcontractors. So it's a different process when you have a nonprofit doing it because one, your subcontractors are not employees. So then, you know, the mileage and the reimbursement, those things are a little bit different. So how do you plan on addressing that with the extension of the contract?
I'm not sure I'm totally clear on your question. So yeah, I believe all of the organizations who are contracted with us are nonprofits. So it should be pretty similar for everybody. But yeah, if you want to talk about specifics with how you're billing mileage, how subcontractors are billing, we can definitely talk about that. But yeah, our hope with this contract extension is to have, yeah, the same region, the same scope of work, except for a tax credit instead of a grant, as well as, you know, the consortium, and just continue the work for 2025 and 2026.
Yes. So would this be a separate conversation or how do your current subcontractors bill for mileage?
So actually, Brandy, that's a really good question. And we're gonna review the proof of purchase guide, which will go over mileage. I think one distinction that, yeah, is important to highlight is there is a difference between how employees of the organization that CDA is contracting with have to invoice versus subcontractors of that main contractor. So there is a little bit, and we can point this out as we go over the proof of purchase guide, but yeah, employees of the organization that is on that contract with CDA, in that contracting relationship, they do have to prove mileage logs and yeah, you know, we asked for screenshots of the route, but mileage can be included as part of what subcontractors might invoice a main contractor for, and it's up to you as the main contractor whether you want to ask for those same mileage logs and screenshots. We do trust contractors to manage their subcontractors in a way that they see fit. So, yeah, does that help?
Yeah, I was just more concerned on how they could turn in their hours, but how are they gotta get reimbursed pay if it's only to the main contractor?
Yeah. So, yeah, there is like an invoice. We do need to see that the main contractor has paid the subcontractor to be reimbursed. There are situations where you know a contractor can ask for an advance payment, but we do have to fill out a waiver and do that on a case-by-case basis. But we can totally explore that. Yeah, if that's of interest, Brandy.
Yeah, we'll jump on another call.
Cool. Sounds good. Okay. Any other questions about that contract extension? Okay, great. Well, we've been working hard on that behind the scenes, and that will be something that we will need to finalize yeah, this fall. So yeah, more on that to come. I also just wanted to send a quick thank you to those who attended the duplication of benefits training put on by KPMG, the consultant that the state of Colorado has hired to pair all of the state agencies who have this SLFRF funding for audits. I know Ieva was there, I know Marion was there. Yeah, I don't know if you all want to share back anything you learned or any impressions. It was very heartwarming for me to yeah, have some other folks kind of learning about the compliance piece of this. So Ieva, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I mean, I just was gonna say that everything that the duplication of benefits training went over was definitely really useful, especially given our organization is in such a rural area. And there's a lot of the same people as who we're talking to. So it's important, I think, to kind of understand who is eligible for that and the things that we need to look out for to make sure that these people don't, for example, get granted something for the same thing twice and then they have to pay it back. I think that was something I didn't, I guess, conceptualize very well. That, you know, if they get awarded grant money for something that they already applied for, then they have to pay that back to the grant awardee, you know. So
Yeah.
that was kind of an interesting thing.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you were there. And I do think it's a really wonderful, like all of you are in a really unique position where, yeah, you're kind of on the business's side. You get to, yeah, help them access resources and you get to kind of help them navigate potential landmines, right? And you get to help them avoid a situation where they've received money from two sources for the same thing, and then that messy process of having to pay it back and then maybe kind of be under some kind of disciplinary action could be really a huge headache and very frustrating for everyone. And so yeah, just awareness of duplication of benefits is really exciting for all of you, as outreach and TA contractors. Marianne, go ahead.
I just want to say I really appreciated the amount of information they provided. It was just so much I never knew about. So that's number one. And number two, I really appreciate more and more the complexity of the granting process, which I have also not really understood, and makes me even more want to support teams like us to help people get through it.
Yeah.
No wonder hardly anyone ever enjoys going through a granting process.
Yeah.
So, thank
Yeah.
you again for making us aware of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for attending. So the big takeaways there, you know, if we were to summarize the day-long training in a few words is, yeah, the federal and state government are very concerned about a need being filled twice, right? So, you know, luckily our program was designed to fill a gap, right? So there aren't like 14 other programs out there doing the same thing. But it is always good to be aware of other opportunities that are out there that could potentially be used as, as a double, right? So, yeah, that's the main takeaway from the duplication of benefits training. Do know that a lot of avoiding duplication of benefits is done in the development of a program. So, you know, we did a lot of work on the front end to make sure duplications weren't happening. But Marion and Aiva, were there any things you were thinking about that were like, oh, that could be a place where someone might get a benefit twice?
I mean, like I mentioned, since we are working in a lower income community and in a rural area, serving 6 counties, there's a lot of people who are our most common farmers, people that we turn to for these types of things. We turn to them for, you know, applying to the CDA food resilience grant. And they have a lot of those same issues. You know, it's just that I think in the San Luis Valley Local Foods Coalition are seeing a lot of the same people, and we return to a lot of the same people to apply for these different things, because obviously, you know, we're all in a low income community, and we want to be able to get them that funding. And I think that is a place that could be a slippery slope for us without having adequate resources to just ensure that whatever they're applying to, because what was interesting to me about the training is how many sources of a duplication of benefits there can be. They had a whole discussion on loans, insurances, all of those different kinds of things that could potentially, depending on their circumstances, be considered a duplication of benefits. And it's a lot of information. There's a lot of ways without proper attention that people could develop a duplication in something that they're applying for. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And just to kind of put a finer point on that, it's not a duplication of benefits to get a grant from, let's say, CDA's Ag Workforce Program and also get a grant, you know, same farm getting a grant from CDA's Community Food Access Program. It is a duplication of benefits if you apply for funds from the Community Food Access Program to get a point of sales machine to accept SNAP, and then you get it for free from MarketLink. So that's like one example we clued into, and we were pretty careful in the review process to, like ensure that nobody was asking for that when they had the opportunity to get it for free from MarketLink. But yeah, I think the more different grants and loans and insurance proceeds your business is getting, the more likely there is that there's some kind of overlap. And so we want to just advise all of these businesses we're working with to be really careful about that, and not duplicate benefits. So any other questions on duplication of benefits? Okay, Great. All right, so I'm going to switch gears to share my screen so that we can talk about the proof of purchase guide and go over this. As I mentioned, this is really useful for just to go over, get a refresher on, and have everyone ask questions about, because there's a lot that goes into invoicing the state. In this case, it's proving that you purchased something that the state gave you an advance payment for. But I am right here now in our contractor resources folder. So this is what you guys have access to. And I'm going over here to submitting proof of payment. So you can see this guide. We've got it in a few different languages. I'm going to go to the English one, but we have it here in Spanish. If you want to follow along in Spanish. And this is the guide that we give to all grantees before they accept their funds. We go over this guide together. Adonai and I have probably gone over this guide dozens of times. We want to make sure people understand this before they agree to accept their funds. But when it comes time for them to submit their proof of payment, sometimes they could use a little bit of help. So we're going to just go over it together with all of you. And remember that these are the same concepts that are important for submitting proof of purchase for the tax credit application, and also for when you guys invoice us for reimbursement. Okay, so, the biggest thing here, only expend funds as identified in the attestation. So for grantees, if their attestation doesn't say they can purchase it, they shouldn't send us a receipt showing that they bought it. That won't count against the grant funds. So that's why we take a lot of time to make sure that attestation looks right. But if they are, and this goes for contractors too, if contractors are billing us for something that's not in our contract, we can't reimburse for it. Jay, do you have a question?
Yeah, I am not, I don't know where the link is to the guide you're talking about.
Okay. Are you able to see this guide that is it up on the screen? What's shown on the screen?
Oh yeah, there it is.
Okay. But going back, in the contractor resources folder,
Okay.
it's in this sort of subfolder here, submitting proof of payment. And yeah. Sure, absolutely. Here is the Spanish one. Okay. And then here's the English one, if you guys just would prefer to follow along on your on your own computer. But all of this is in the contractor resources folder, which contains all kinds of great things. So I think the most important link, which you guys should all have, but if not, is the link to that folder. Okay. So going back into this proof of payment guide. Okay, so only expend funds as identified in the attestation, or in your case, in the contract. In the case of the tax credit, we should only see receipts and proof of payment for the costly equipment that's, a tax credit is being requested for. This is kind of a general rule in our program. It's okay if, one item in your attestation, in the grantee's attestation, cost a little more and one thing costs a little less. 10% variance across line items is totally acceptable. So no big conversations are required if there's changes in in how things actually shake out, if they're less than 10%. If it's more than 10%, let's have a conversation about it. We do have some ability to adjust attestations, adjust contracts, but we do need to initiate a discussion. Payment for this project will not exceed the total maximum amount. So, you know, that's just saying there's no more money coming for grantees. We pay them all upfront. And for you guys, it won't, you know, payment won't exceed the total contract amount. That's in your contract. Okay, so now for the hard part. Ideally, and this saves a lot of time administratively. You can imagine how many invoices Adonai and I are getting. We have almost 120 grantees and we have 7 contractors. So it is extremely helpful if all of the receipts can be in one packet. And at the top of the packet, there's a summary page, an invoice that shows what's in the packet. All of that helps us out a lot. We also love notes, whether they're handwritten, highlights, circles, anything to help clarify, you know, the pile of receipts and bank statements that are coming in really, really helps. So as organized as this can be, the better. And this is where you guys come in as outreach and TA providers. This is one simple way that you can help businesses in your region a lot, is just helping them collect those receipts, you know, helping our team identify, okay, here's the receipt, here's the proof of payment, here's the total, everything's adding up. That makes things go really smoothly, and it saves us from a lot of back and forth over email. So, so we'll go over all of those types of receipts and proof of payment in the cover sheet, but one neat organized packet that's really easy and clear to read is the gold standard. Highlighting relevant figures, as I mentioned, and including notes where necessary is so helpful. It's also important to redact sensitive information. So sensitive information includes accounting information and routing numbers on checks. We just for security purposes, sending that information over email, black that out. We don't need to see a check or accounting information, accounting number on the check. It also is great to redact out any if you're sending us a bank statement, circle the transaction we're looking at, redact everything else. We don't need to see it all. That way it helps us draw our eye to the right thing, and it also keeps businesses safe and their information private. So, you know, if information is redacted in this guide, that means we'd like to see it redacted when businesses send it in. Okay, math. This is a huge deal. We have, when invoices are sent to us, or proof of payment guides in the case of grantees, it goes through multiple levels of administrators at CDA checking math. Every calculation is double checked, triple checked, quadruple checked. So if the rate that you're billing times the hours that you've billed for doesn't equal the total, that may result in an invoice being kicked back. If yeah, totals aren't adding up. If the total of the check amount isn't adding up to the amount you reported on the invoice, that may get kicked back to you. So, yeah, do take your time reviewing all of, all of those total dollar amounts and what the cover sheet says or what the invoice says, and make sure it all adds up. Okay, so this is relevant to the grantees. 3 months after CDA advances the funds to the grantee, we need this packet. So whether it's a packet that shows complete payment for every item that's part of their grant, that would be great, but we will accept a packet that shows partial payment or, just a partial amount of the award. We just need to see something in that 3-month period. And that is the very strict rules that that was sort of the quid pro quo when we pushed for these grants to be advanced payments. It was a fight. And they said, we will allow that, but we need these grantees to submit proof that they spent the funds the right way within 3 months of the date that they received the advance. So that's the really, really important piece. And I know a lot of you on this call have already received nudges saying, hey, we've been trying to get this proof of payment packet from a grantee. Their 3-month deadline is coming up. We have no choice but to audit them if we don't receive something from them. And that's when we've nudged all of you. And that's when you guys can really help us out a lot. So that 3-month time period is really important. I'll just stress again, if grantees weren't able to spend all the funds, that's okay. We just need to see what they have spent. And in the case where they haven't been able to spend any funds, that is still okay, but we need a very formal status update. So the status update requires 2 things. We need in writing, the rationale for why things haven't been spent. And that can, doesn't need to be, it can just be the truth, right? In a lot of cases, these are construction projects and these businesses are located in places where there are not a lot of contractors and it's hard to get on their time schedule. Maybe the weather interfered. We just need that story and we need it in writing. And then we need also a new time frame for when we can expect that proof of payment proof of payment to come in. Jay.
Yeah, have you guys sent this packet or emailed this guide to the grantees?
Plan before harvest celebration.
Okay. And then I'm wondering also if we can get a list of who has submitted their paperwork and who hasn't, because not a single grantee in our area is asking for help or in communication with us. And I can reach out to them, but I have no idea where they're at in the process because they all seem to be fine doing it by themselves.
Yeah, so a little bit about our process. Actually, Adonai, would you like to explain your very involved process for how you are communicating with grantees and at what point, we've been bringing in outreach and PA contractors? Adonai, can you hear me? Okay, maybe he can't hear. Sorry. It doesn't seem like he can hear, but that's okay. Adonai sends 8 emails to grantees and attaches this guide every time. We go over it together. Sorry, Adonai, do you want to jump in?
Sí, ya, perdón, perdí en la transmisión, en la traducción. No, está bien, sí, sí, no escuchaba que me llamaban, pero ya lo escucho.
I was
Sí,
just seeing if you wanted to describe your process for how you, when you send reminders and nudges and how many, and when you bring in the outreach and TA contractors.
yeah, sure. So we send like anywhere from 5 to 7 reminders. So it's 3 months, 2 months in, 1 month in, then a week in, 5 days, 4 days, 3 days, 1 day. So we are sending that reminder, and sometimes it's a very formal email, and sometimes it's more like a communication between them, like, oh yeah, I'll do it tomorrow, but I have this question. So we are always like in touch with them. For round 1, we haven't really encountered many issues with someone not really answering at all. We have some delays because of projects or some other situations, but yeah, that's how we are contacting them. We are keeping track of every single communication we have. If, for example, someone can have a due date for tomorrow and they are like, oh, you know what, I'm on vacation, can we do it like next week? So we are updating that date for next week, and we are trying as best as we can to keep track of that date and go back ahead and, you know, remind them that, oh, this is the new date and it's due now as well. So yeah, we're keeping a lot of communication and then receiving all the documents, and yeah, we are checking them like 3 times or more. So yeah, it's a very exhaustive process, but yeah.
Very exhaustive process.
So
And with
if one of our grantees, let's just, you know, for example, like you kind of like you gave them the funds and then you aren't hearing anything and you haven't submitted, would you let me know about that? Okay.
protocol is to alert the outreach and TA provider if we
Okay.
haven't heard from them and it's a month and they're they are 1 month from their due date. So we've done that with a number of folks on this call. And yeah, it tends to be, it can feel a little bit frantic. Usually it's just a matter of them not contacting us. But yes, we haven't had any issues in the San Luis Valley yet. But know that, yeah, we've got that sort of 1 month check for, okay, we haven't heard anything from this person. And it's getting close to time. So that's when we would loop in the outreach and TA contractor.
Okay, awesome. Thanks. I
Yeah.
don't know, so that's really helpful to hear. Thanks, Adonai.
Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of the pressure is to get something, whether it's the status update, which is very it's simple, but it also very critically needs 2 things. The reason why things are delayed, even if it just seems like a boring run-of-the-mill reason, we need it in writing for our auditing purpose. And then the new date. And the new date doesn't need to be like, oh, I'll get it as soon as I can. It should be a realistic date, because what is problematic for auditors is to go back and see and say, oh, this person said they would get it to you in 3 months and they didn't. And then they said they would get it to you in a month and they didn't again. And then they said they'd get it to you in another week and they didn't again. We would prefer to have a nice realistic date that is easy to meet. So yeah, hopefully that helps you all help the businesses in your region. Also really, really important, cash is not a viable way to pay for expenses included in the grant. And the reason being is there's no paper trail. We have no way of proving that the cash was spent appropriately. So payments need to either be with a check, with a card, with a debit card. Wait, debit card? Help me out. Yeah, that's okay. Yeah. Anything with the paper trail. The cashier's check works too, but no cash. Marianne.
So that brings me to a question that actually segues into the tax, the new tax credit thing. If they paid cash for any equipment, does that mean they can't apply for the
Fortunately,
tax
yeah.
credit?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
They would have to show that a check, something transpired, that is the proof, third-party proof. of what
Right.
happened.
And
Okay.
the reason is the state needs not only a receipt, but also a proof of payment. So we'll go
Yep.
through that in the next pages here.
Yes.
And that's why cash, isn't a viable way to pay for.
That's super good to know, because some of those stores, that's what they operate under, is cash for sure.
Yeah.
For many reasons, obviously.
Right.
Can
Yeah.
we get like I did note someone else just asked, can we get a copy of or find this document so we can familiarize ourselves with what they do need to give you? Because that
Yes.
often is the problem. They don't fully understand exactly, and we can't say, well, send them this. You know what I mean? Because we
Right.
don't know either.
So are you saying you need a copy of their attestation?
No, not the
Or-
attestation, but this document, what to
Oh,
ask them.
yeah. So it's linked in the chat a couple times, but I'll go through this again.
Oh, okay. That's
Um,
great. If it's in the chat,
yeah.
I'm happy. Thank you.
But most importantly, this is in the contractor resources folder. And we
Okay.
talked about this early on, but I do encourage everybody to go through all the documents in this folder. This
Yep.
is considered required reading, this proof of payment guide.
Yep.
Knowing this backwards and forwards is how you can really provide support. So
Well, I'm embarrassed to say I have not looked at this. So,
well, we're looking at it now, Marion.
yay.
And there are a lot of grants that have gone out this summer, and their 3-month date will be October, November, December. So there will be a workload with helping grantees coming up, and we do anticipate that they'll need help. So this is the perfect time to be looking at this, to know it inside and out. Realizing we may not get to all of their updates today, but this is really important. So the next page on this sheet, in this guide, goes over what we're looking for in a cover sheet. So in this example, this is an example of a cover sheet for a packet that contains a partial amount of the grant, proof of payment for just some things. And we've demonstrated that they've highlighted them here. This really, really helps us on the administrative side of things to go through it and see, okay, we're looking for a high tunnel, a display case, and a flag. So also really importantly, at the bottom here of this cover sheet, they note when the remaining proof of purchases will be sent. That helps us have a time frame for when the rest of the receipts and proof of payment are coming in. So that's very important to have in a cover sheet. So cover sheets are much simpler than invoices, for sort of switching topics to contractors invoicing us. There's a lot of requirements that we need in an invoice for reimbursement for work, but we can talk about that at a separate time. But this is just simply a cover sheet detailing what's in the packet. Okay, so items paid for with a credit card. So we need to see the receipt from the transaction. And you can see in this example, sorry, this is very small. You know, any kind of circling helps. Highlighting just really helps us know what we're looking at. And then not only that receipt, but the proof of payment. So the credit card, this was, you know, this is a receipt for the item paid with a credit card, and this is the bank statement showing that the credit card statement was paid, or yeah, that credit card, you know, amount was paid. And they've, in this example, they've just even removed everything that's not this one transaction. And we will be looking at these numbers to make sure things line up. So, you know, we can see the name of the business is the same. We can see the charge. These numbers are aligning, right? So that's an example for items paid for by credit card. A note on sales tax. This is kind of, you know, another tricky little thing at the state, but sales tax is allowed to be included with a for-profit business. They're allowed to sort of charge the sales tax to the grant. Nonprofit businesses, because they're tax exempt, have to subtract that sales tax from receipts. So, you know, you all have gotten in the habit of removing sales tax as nonprofits from your invoices to us for, yeah, items like this that you buy. There are some grantees who are nonprofits, so make sure, you know, you help them out with that. There are other, most of our grantees are for-profit businesses though, so there's no removal of sales tax that needs to happen. Okay. Contract work. Everybody should be kind of familiar with this because you're either a subcontractor or you have subcontractors. So all the state's looking for is an invoice from that contractor. We need a little bit of detail on that invoice. It can't just be blank. So, you know, that's a situation where the packet may be sent back saying, you know, you've got this invoice, but it doesn't detail any of the work that's happened. It doesn't need to be a lot, but in the case of some of our grantees, it's just like concrete work. It just, you know, it needs something on there. So we need that invoice. And then we also need a proof of payment showing that that contractor was paid for the amount that they invoiced. So this can be pretty straightforward. Lots of times contract work is paid for with a check. So yeah, we need an image of the front and the back of the check. You can see the accounting and routing numbers are blacked out, and we're going to be checking numbers. You know, we're going to check it against the receipt. We'll also be looking at dates too. The dates should align as well. You know, it's suspect if the date was from before you even signed the contract, that would be unallowable, right? So yeah, those are some items to note for yeah, when folks are paying for things with check. Brandy, here's your question about mileage. What we are looking for with mileage is both a log and yeah, an image of the route. The Colorado state mileage reimbursement rate is 60 cents per mile. So you'll notice that this log was made before that changed. So this says 59 cents per mile, but you know, everybody can use 60 cents per mile. The state won't reimburse at the federal rate, which is higher, as a note. And yeah, we should have the number of trips, the total mileage, and yeah, the total mileage rate. And that mileage rate includes, you know, it's intended to sort of both include gas and wear and tear on the vehicle. So yeah, we typically don't deal with like gas receipts or that sort of thing, unless it's explicitly stated in their attestation, which I can't think of an example of. But yeah, we did have an example of an attestation, which included vehicle repairs. So yeah, that sort of goes in a separate category. Okay, and then the most fun one, which you all know pretty well, because a lot of the work that you invoice us for is all of your time. So payroll, basically payroll is fairly straightforward if the business has a, you know, like a payroll software that can generate a pay stub. But yeah, we will need to see, we will be looking at the, yeah, the employee's name, the total amount they were paid, and the rate they're paid at. So yeah, we can get into this on a case-by-case basis. A lot of businesses have different ways of yeah, keeping track of payroll, and especially with our small businesses, you know, who are our grantees, they're often paying folks in a variety of different ways. But if a payroll software isn't something that the business uses, a timesheet can help support that, yeah, that proof of payment documentation. So, yeah, I'll stop there. Does anyone have any questions about this guide? Cool. Yeah, something to kind of take a look at on your own. I'm sure a lot of you are super familiar with this because you do the invoicing to CDA. So a lot of those same concepts are coming through there. But yeah, a very important, you know, remember this guide was written for the beneficiaries of our grant, but a lot of these same concepts will carry through for the tax credit. Perdita.
I have a quick question about, let's say that someone had in their attestation a item that was, the allocation was, I don't know, 25.7, and they found this product for, I don't know, 26.2. Is there a way to purchase that product, show that the difference, I mean, that's not a good example because a 10% thing can work on that.
Yeah.
Let's say it's more than 10%.
Yeah.
Is there any way to purchase that item and pay for the difference separately? In a, is there any way, how would you show that, or how would you, yeah.
That's a great question. Yeah. So let's say, so there's two options. You can say, you know what, I think I will just, you know, cover some of these other items myself. Or yeah, I'd like to just pay for the exact amount. Like, let's look at this cover sheet. So let's say, yeah, the cost of this produce display case was actually like $4,000. Yeah, it kind of depends, but I think we just want on this cover sheet to show what the grantee is charging against the grant. So if they want to charge all 4,000 and this is exceeding 10%, we can have a conversation about that. We can make documentation about, you know, the cost was way more than we thought, and we're shifting funds that are in excess of 10%, and we can do that. They can also just sort of note, like, the actual cost is 4,000, but, you know, I'm using my own funds to cover the excess. So, you know, whether that's written in paragraph form or you want to make some kind of chart with different columns, you know, it's totally up to the grantee, and we can sort it out together. But yeah, that is okay to do. that make
Okay,
sense?
I think I understand. So then then that person would also just show like, they paid they paid 4,000. So then the check or whatever the credit card would be 4,000.
Yeah.
But in parentheses in here, they would have, this is how much is coming out of the grant.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, got it.
We're-
Thank you.
CDA is a little more concerned with, seeing here like, oh yes, 10,000 was, or in the case of being reimbursed, like please pay us 10,000, and then going down into the packet and seeing, only 9,000 was spent, right? That unaccounted for $1,000 is more of what we're concerned with and more of what we're looking for. So we're kind of looking for like, we need to see at least 10,000 here is demonstrated, was demonstrably purchased by this business. Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
So yeah, going over and covering the difference with the business's own fund, that's totally fine. Okay, that's great. So we spent a lot of time on that, but I'm really happy we did, because yeah, this is super important, and these themes carry over to all the technical assistance that you guys will help us do for all elements of this program. So again, this is in the submitting proof of payment folder in the contractor resources folder. And I do encourage you to go back into this folder and take a look at some of these other these other items in here. Can help jog your memory. Okay, so I'll just quickly talk about our tax credit updates. So we are in the process of making a guide. You guys able to see that? This guide? Okay, cool. Yeah, so this guide is, as you all requested, similar to the guide that we made for the grant. It basically just has all the information from the website in a printable packet. So it's not quite ready yet. There's still some, edits I want to make, reviews I want to make, but once this looks good, we'll release it out to you. We'll put it on the website. We'll get it translated. And it is right now 20 pages. So just wanted to let you know that we are in the near final stages of that guide. Most importantly though, the soft launch is coming to an end. August 30th has come and gone, and we are excited to have received just the right number of applications. So we're thrilled that we got some applications, and we're also thrilled that we didn't get so many that we're going to be overwhelmed with questions that were unanswered. It's kind of the perfect amount for us to work with. So for those of you that supported applicants, thank you so much. We're really, really excited to review those. We also received a letter of, eligibility request form submission. So we'll be issuing a letter of eligibility, assuming everything looks good there. So when is this going to hard launch is the big question. We are, as I've mentioned, working with the governor's office. This is not confirmed yet, but we are hoping to have a press event. Will likely be in the Front Range. We don't know where or when or if it's really happening yet, but we're looking at September 20th. So I've been told over and over to not count my chickens before they hatch when planning with Gov's office, because he's a busy guy, and things can change on a hairpin turn. But September 20th is around the time when this we'll have a hard launch. You'll see in your agenda that I had actually planned for an information session on the tax credit to be on the 20th, but we don't want to have it before or on the same day of the press event. So we're going to have it after the 20th. I'll find a time and get ready for that. But in that information session, we're going to just walk through basically the guide here, the information on the website. We're going to go through some frequently asked questions, things that have come up. And we are working with the Department of Revenue to get some answers to some of your really good questions that have come in. And yeah, we have some good news, some sort of still gray area news. And yeah, a lot of things we don't know that we don't know. So I think, you know, in conjunction with this press event, the press event is going to be celebrating the grantees, and it's also going to be announcing the grant. So that means we finally get to put the list of names of grantees on our website, and we get to work with each of you to celebrate all of your work in this. So please let me know if you want to have a media event of your own. Please let me know if you want to publicize this in newsletters or in local papers. We are happy to support you with that. We want you to celebrate it. And there's also just like a couple of things that our funding source requires us to say when we talk about this work. So just let me know if you're planning to do that kind of thing. I can review yeah, articles, blurbs and newsletters, etc. So yeah, those are my updates on the tax credit. Marianne.
I had a question when you said you received applications. Did you actually receive a full application or just requests for letters of eligibility?
We received full applications, Marianne.
Wow.
Wow is right.
Well, because I didn't actually know that. I thought a soft launch meant you start talking about it, but you don't actually.
No. Yeah, no, the application was open. So
okay.
Yeah, people applied. So yeah, it's great because we get to sink our teeth into this now. So, and we get to hopefully issue some tax credits. Jay.
So if I was going to put out a press release about this stuff, do you want to read it first?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll if you send it to me, it'll be something I do that day. If I have questions, I may send it to our communications team, but we can turn it around really quickly for you. But yeah, I think better safe than sorry with that kind of thing.
Okay. All right, cool. Thanks.
Yeah. Lauren.
I had some questions about just the anticipation of this hard launch of the tax credit. In addition to this packet, I know during the grant cycles, the CDA also kind of created one-pagers that we can use and then customize. Or should we expect that again?
Yes. Yeah. That's part of our, but you could be like Jay, I'm going to brag about you, Jay, just like took it upon herself to make her own little handout. And it's so cool because, you know, she's done some work, you know, finding a low interest loan lender, and she like put them on the same brochure. So it's just like the most perfect little targeted handout. So everyone is welcome. You know, if you're great in Canva or, you know, good with that kind of graphic design thing, and you want to whip it up and you feel like you can do it faster and better than I can, just send it over to me. And like Jay did, I'll read it, let you know if anything needs to be changed. But, you know, you guys know this program pretty well. So if you want to kind of take that project on in a really customized way for your region and your population, go ahead to do that. But yeah, just send it to me before sending them to the printing press.
Cool. Yeah, Jay, if you would be willing to share that with the group, I know I would love to see it and maybe get inspiration to create our own for our region. And then also, Mickey, second question. I know that there were at one point talks of the CDA creating some kind of informational like video with like nice visuals and stuff to make this information digestible. Is that still
Yeah,
in the plan?
it's
Okay.
happening. Yeah. Well, you know, I need to like it's sort of like going lower on the priority list. Our first priority is to get this program, figure out this program. And honestly, to be honest with you guys, it would be great if that video could just stay evergreen, right? These videos do cost a lot of money to make well, and it would be a shame to make a video that's immediately outdated because we update our software. So it is in the works. But you know, I've mentioned this a few times. I want to have a better tool than a Google form for this tax credit application, both for the applicant and for CDA, and for you guys. I know there's definitely some limitations of the Google form. So yeah, I think once we feel like we've got a really good system for this, we know what we want to communicate loudest. We know what's the most confusing. And ideally that video has some support on like, you know, here's where you upload your documentation, right? For it to be really useful. So we're kind of navigating that, and that's making it be not the biggest priority right now. But yes, it is still in the works. We do have funds earmarked for it. And yeah, I think we have to remember that this is a 6-year program. So yeah, there's all that to say, we want to set it up right. We want to set it up in a way, because we will be working with this program in the same way 6 years from now. We need to take our time to make sure we don't issue a tax credit for something now that we wouldn't in 2030, if that makes sense. It's got to be consistent. So yeah, that's kind of the long story on the video, but it is happening.
Thank you.
Sure. Yeah. Hey.
Okay, this is this point of contention. I think I've asked this question probably twice, but I want to ask again because so yeah, I'm trying to explain this to people and they are hung up on tax credit, feeling like this is only if they're gonna owe X amount of taxes that you know what I mean? And I'm just like, I'm like, yeah, now I'm confused again. Because from what I basically understand, this is a equipment reimbursement if you are eligible. And the only thing it has to do with your taxes is you won't get that reimbursement until after you have filed your taxes. And so I'm just wondering why we're calling it a tax credit.
So it is a credit against taxes owed to the state. I think it's fair to think about it as like a reimbursement on equipment that you bought, that you would only get after you file your taxes. Yeah, I think the amount the business would get depends on a lot of things, like how much they owe in taxes, if they have any other tax credits. So yeah, it is a tax credit. That's what it is. But yeah, maybe I'm not understanding totally.
I guess it's like if I'm going to just say like a small business has enough expenses, they may not owe any taxes next year. And so they could still be reimbursed for 75% of that equipment, regardless of how much tax they owe.
It wouldn't be regardless. If they owe 0, then they'll get back, you know, a dollar amount that equals 75%. But even if they owe, you know, $5, about 5 will be subtracted from the check that they get back from the state. So it is totally regarding how much they owe in taxes. Yeah.
So So let's say a business is going to owe $10,000 in taxes and their tax credit was 5,000, or what the reimbursement would, they would get 5. So they're actually not going to get a check for $5,000. They're just going to owe only $5,000. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And, maybe what we want to do, maybe internally, we want to like map this out kind of visually. So situation one, the one you just described, where they owe 10,000 in taxes, they have a $5,000 credit, they only have to pay 5,000. Situation two, so yeah, I think that might be helpful for us internally to just understand it and know how to explain it. And then we can think about a way to make that more public facing, because it's really confusing. So yeah.
Okay, well, that helped. Thanks.
Yeah. Marion.
So just to be totally clear, if you don't owe any taxes, you won't get anything back.
No. Anybody else want to take that one? I'll be quiet. Anyone else want to explain that? Go ahead, Jay.
So if you don't owe any taxes, you still qualify to have that equipment reimbursed. And they will cut you a check rather than just take it out of the taxes you might have owed otherwise.
Okay, so you could conceivably get a cash back.
Yes.
That's really all I needed to know.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
But if you do owe a lot of taxes, you won't get that cash back. It will just come off the tax.
Yeah, that's fine.
State.
But you're obviously not going to know how much you owe until the end of the year.
Right.
So, or until you do the whole compilation of, your year. So there's quite a bit of waiting period to figure out what you've actually gained by this.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Then I had one of our farmers had several other questions about the tracking that the equipment they purchased is directly relating to the communities they serve.
Yeah.
And that, of course, is pretty hard for a farmer to do, since mostly their equipment goes to running their farm, which then creates the food. So how do you actually prove that?
That is such a hard question, Marion.
No kidding.
Right. I mean, so put yourselves in our shoes here, right?
Yep.
We run the risk of, like if we're not asking for anything, we run the risk of businesses who aren't really serving a low income, low access community buying a lot of equipment and eating up all 10 million before a business that is really, maybe they took out a huge loan to try to make a big expansion, and all 10 million's gone, right? So we have to ask for something. So that's going to be the case with vehicles, right? Unfortunately, a vehicle isn't just this cut and dry thing that's clearly moving the needle, right? So
I mean, in this case, the farmer asked about a tractor. That's obviously one of the biggest expenses a farmer would have, right?
Right.
But it's really only used to feed the livestock, right? Or plant the plants, or there's no direct link to how that helps.
So this is where you're going to be such an asset, Marion, because you're going to help them tell that story. And, CDA may ask for, may ask some follow-up questions. If they submit their application, if they already bought the tractor, they have you helping them tell their story. They submit their application and CDA wants to know, like, okay, well, tell us about maybe where else besides this carniceria are your products sold? What percentage, is sold?
Yes.
That's the line of questioning, but it's going to be really hard. So, this is where we need your help. If you all know that this business is making a huge difference for a low income population in your communities, help them tell their story really well. You know,
Well,
that's,
this is where the
yeah.
chicken and the egg thing comes because, as you know, it has evolved through this process that local Hispanic, I'm going to use them because most of our stores in this area are Hispanic,
Mhm.
want to purchase from farmers. I mean, this
Mhm.
has become more and more clear.
Mhm.
So we're just beginning to create those relationships, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
Later on, when they're real relationships, that could actually be shown because it can be shown by how much the local store purchases food for
Mhm.
their low income customers. So I
Yeah.
just want to point that out. I'm not saying I have the solution. I'm
Yeah.
just
No,
saying that,
I'm glad you're bringing this up. That's a very topical question, and it unfortunately doesn't have a great answer.
right.
So yeah, I think I just want us all to feel on the same team here, navigating this, because we don't want to create a program that's so hard to get a tax credit that nobody does it, but we also don't want to create a program that's so easy to tap into that 10 million taxpayer dollars every year go to businesses that aren't really making a difference, right?
Right.
So
Yep.
we're gonna figure it out together.
And then the last question he had was, does the pre-evaluation process, is there any possibility that is used as a collateral to help get a loan from a bank? Obviously, these are
Yeah.
banks who would understand
Yeah.
why this is happening. And maybe you could guide us to what those banks might be. Or even if it's the CDA funds through Brian Copham's team, where could we leverage getting a loan in order to make the purchase because you're going to get the tax credit?
Yeah. Ongoing area of exploration, which it sounds like a lot of work is being done. I've had some conversations too. So I think, yeah, that's a big question. And yeah, I think that letter of eligibility could be a very powerful tool, depending on the lender. So
Yep.
yeah, let's keep talking about that.
Okay. And if you come across any banks that we should be considering, or
Yeah.
funds, would you please share that also? Thank you.
Yeah, I think so. Last meeting we had, we started that conversation. So I think what would be great is if we could just, yeah, put it on paper and put it in this contractor resources folder.
Yep.
So maybe I'll start the spreadsheet and have it be a place where anyone can add anything. And yeah, get that started.
Okay. Thank you.
Cool.
Those
Yeah.
are all my.
Lauren, did you have a question or comment?
No, never mind. Thank
Okay.
you.
Well, we still have 3 minutes to talk. We're gonna put this for another meeting, but I do want to show you all. You can all see this screen still, right? Okay. So here in this folder, Snap Guide, I could rename that. These beautiful guides were created by our very own Lucy and Lauren. They have done a ton of work through other, in separate from this contract, supporting retailers becoming SNAP authorized. So we're gonna just queue this up. If you have been working with retailers who aren't SNAP authorized and they have been asking you for help, this is a really great tool to show them. And we're gonna give Lauren and Lucy a little more time at the next meeting to talk about it. But I want you all to know that it's here. It's in this folder, and we have it in English and Spanish. So yeah, even if you're just curious to look at it yourself, it's a very involved process to become a SNAP authorized retailer. My goodness. It honestly made me feel a little bit better about, I mean, sometimes I feel like some of the things we're asking for are like, oh gosh, that's very annoying for someone to get, but this is, becoming SNAP authorized is way more involved than applying for our grant. So, yeah, we'll just leave it there. But yeah, thank you all for a really great meeting and your great questions and your great comments. And your, yeah, appreciated flexibility with, with shifting things around. So until next time, and then, always know you can reach out to me. I'll probably be sending some updates about the tax credit and other things, because yeah, things are kind of happening quickly now. So expect some emails from me, but yeah, great to see you all today. And don't hesitate to reach out to me and Adonai if there's anything you want to talk about one-on-one.
I just want to say real quick that I reach out to Mickey a lot, and she is always very available to answer questions and talk. And yeah, huge resource. And thank you for that, all that extra time that I use up.
I love it, Jay, and live for your emails. So yeah, and that goes for all of you. I love connecting with all of you. I love hearing what's going on in your region. It helps make this program better. So don't hesitate to reach out.
Thank you.
Hi,
Thanks,
thank you so much.
Have a good one.
Yes.
Gracias, Alejandro.